Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Wynn Las Vegas, home of the 2020 Connect Marketplace. I'm Patrick Higgins, Vice President Connect, and we are so glad that you're here and you took time to join us today. We're excited about what we're going to do today. This is going to be the first of a series of webinars that we're going to be providing monthly leading up to Connect this October, where the focus is going to be on meeting and event planners that have successfully held meetings and events with great results within the past 2 or 3 weeks. So we're excited to share some good news. There are meetings and events happening right now, albeit in smaller numbers, and it's a far cry from where we were at the beginning of the year, but it is a great place to start, and we want to share those stories and be able to share their experiences and what they've learned from those meetings and event planners as we move forward. So here with me is my friend and colleague, Susie Schnell. Say hi, Susie.
Hey, everybody.
So Susie is actually outside.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll jump in. I'm coming to you live from some of the beautiful outdoor space at the Wynn. They just underwent a huge expansion of their space earlier this year, and I am presenting to you live from this beautiful outdoor event pavilion where we will be featuring a lot of our meal functions during Connect in October. Perfect time of the year to be outdoors. So this is a 20,000 square foot pavilion with adjacent lawn space we'll be utilizing. And we just wanted to say hello, show you some of the featured space we'll be using. And we're gonna start our webinar today with the team, broadcasting to you live from around the resort to show you some more highlights of what they're doing to make sure Connect is the cleanest and safest event you're attending this year.
Awesome, thanks, Susie. So one of the things we want to do today before we introduce our panel is we want to walk everybody through. It's been so long since so many of us have traveled. Myself included, this is my first trip. I'm from a different part of the state of Nevada. I took my first flight since March, and I was curious what it was going to look like. And I'll tell you what, the airport was not a ghost town. We were not the only people on our flight. It was, with the exception of mask, the mask requirement, it seemed like business as usual to me, and it felt great. It felt so good to be back at it and be back on the road again. And I was surprised how many elements of my trip actually felt like normal, and it felt so good to be back in the saddle again. So that was my personal experience. One of the things that we want to do before we introduce the panel and we jump right into things is spend some time with our friends and team members here at the Wynn to walk all of you through what this experience is going to look like in October. The Wynn has been very busy preparing for welcoming groups and meetings and attendees of all sizes, and I've been very encouraged personally about some of the things that I've seen and experienced since we've been here. So we're gonna spend a few minutes. They're gonna be broadcasting through this webinar from a few different key locations throughout the hotel. So with no further ado, I will turn things over to Lexi. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Lexi McNamara. I'm a national sales manager here at Wynn Las Vegas and Encore. I am just going to briefly walk you through our arrival experience. Currently at Wynn Las Vegas and Encore, the arrival experience has been enhanced to provide extra layers of safety for each and every one of our guests. As you enter the property, from any of our entrances, each guest is scanned by a thermal camera. In the event a guest reads at an elevated temperature, a member from our team will conduct a second screening with a non-contact thermometer. Masks have also been enforced at our property since reopening, and our staff provides these to our guests at each entry if they do not already have one. Our staff is trained on how to politely remind and enforce mask wearing whenever a guest is not actively dining or enjoying a beverage at one of our venues. Upon check-in, our guests and staff are separated by a custom plexiglass barrier as an extra layer of protection during the check-in process. Signage throughout the property encourages all of the health and safety practices to keep your guests safe as well. Wynn Las Vegas and Encore continue to lead the way in health and safety to allow you guys to escape and relax during your stay with us. With no further ado, I'm going to pass this over to my colleague, Carrie Ann Ratner.
Hi there, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. As Lexi mentioned, thank you. I am Carrie Ann Ratner, Director of West Coast Accounts for Wynn Las Vegas. So I'm coming to you live today from the Wynn Salon Suite. So I'm very happy to share some exciting new features that you, as a guest of our resort, will encounter during your stay with us. So we took it very seriously, and one of a lot of things that we've been doing here is in each guest room, Our teams have placed sanitation kits for each guest to utilize and keep you safe while you're here with us during the show. So included in these sales kits, first I'd like to show you kind of what you need to know. So what you need to know. So if you haven't traveled for a little bit, which most of us have not, these are just really healthy reminders of what to do and what you need to do to keep yourself around the resort. So these are in every single guest room, and it talks about who you need to call if you're having any symptoms, and what you need to do and how you need to wear and use everything that's in the room. So we'll get to, there'll be 2 masks. These are face masks that are in each room. If you need more, we have plenty, but you'll get 2 every day. And these are just regular old surgical masks, nothing fancy, but they will protect you while you're here. And also, we have sanitized cloths. They're individually wrapped. When you walk into the room, you'll automatically get 2 masks and you'll get 2 sanitized wipes. They're 75% alcohol and they're great. They're just probably like what you have at home. So it's perfect. So again, you'll put these in your pocket, in your purse, in your Connect bag, and off you go to keep safe around the resort, but at home base, you'll be safe as well. Also, we also have disinfectant gel. So it's travel safe. So if you run out, again, we've got plenty for you. So, but this will also be in your room when you check in. And before you arrive to your room, this is probably my favorite part, we have these stickers and it's disinfected and sealed for your protection. So once our housekeeping department disinfects and sanitizes the room to prepare for your arrival, we will place this seal on the door. So it will be right at the door jamb and it will be sealed for your safety. So you will be the first to arrive after it's been sanitized. So again, rest assured that you'll be well protected. It will just be like your home with a lot of people here to take care of you. Also, our housekeeping team has elevated additional, we already have a very rigorous cleaning practice, but we've also included some new things to include a new e-mist technology, which utilizes electrostatic disinfectant, providing more coverage, less waste, and ultimately a cleaner and much safer environment. So our housekeeping team really has gone above and beyond to making sure that our guests feel safe, especially after a long day of the show. So you'll have everything that you need once you're here to relax, enjoy in a pristine place and environment, providing you just an extra level of comfort during your stay. So we really look forward to seeing you this fall. We can't wait. And I'm gonna turn it over to my colleague, Ellie Rivera. See you soon.
Thanks, Carrie Ann. Good afternoon, everybody. It's so great to be with you all, even virtually. I'm live here from Montrachet, which is one of our meeting rooms here at Wynn Las Vegas, where I know the Connect team is working really hard to put together some really engaging content that you will be enjoying right in these seats. Currently, this room is displayed as a socially distanced set. So right now we have a 1-per-6 set of classroom seating. This room is about 2,000 square feet, and we have the capability of doing between 20 and 40 people comfortably with some distance in between everybody. Currently, we're focused on following guidelines to operate meetings in a socially distanced environment, and have continued to learn best practices as we've operated some meetings since reopening. The biggest importance is to be able to facilitate the needs of our guests and the needs of our clients, and collaborating, in this case, for October with our Connect partners to make sure that we make all of you feel safe when you're here, you know, sitting through your breakouts and engaging in your meetings and networking. We want you to know that if this is the first step that you're taking to get out there and travel and get back to business, we're going to provide you with the safest, most comfortable environment to do so. We've added new safety protocols to our catering program as well, creating custom plexiglass at the stations you visit. Our staff would actually serve you, so there are less touch points, so you don't have to worry about handling different elements during the catering, food and beverage process. Everything will be taken care of for you, and you can enjoy your meals and reception functions, you know, as you love. We are here to accommodate any needs, whether it's a reception, a boxed meal, whatever makes guests feel more comfortable. And again, collaborating with the Connect team to make sure that that's something we can make happen. Our coffee breaks, that's something, everybody needs coffee, everyone needs caffeine while they're, to fuel up for their meetings. So they will look a little bit different when you're here, depending on the group size and what area of the property you're in. We're going to try to work with the group to make sure we can stagger some release time so not everybody is necessarily in the hallways at the same time. If it's a smaller function, such as a breakout, we would have a service station with a server providing whatever beverage you guys would like as you enjoy your meetings. Those are just some of the elements we're putting into place here. Again, we are so thrilled to collaborate with the Connect team to be able to provide you guys with the best, cleanest, safest meeting in October, and we can't wait to have you guys. Thank you so much for your time, and now I'll throw it over to Susie and Patrick.
Great, thank you, Ellie. We do have a few questions. I'll go ahead and read these. Tiffany Williams, Tiffany Williams is asking, when and how do guests receive daily masks? Are they dropped in the room by housekeeping, or do they have to stop at the front desk to pick up? Some hotels are not cleaning rooms daily.
So we are, to address the cleaning protocols, we are cleaning rooms daily. We have seen that some hotels have opted to not re-enter a room after a guest is checked in. We are still doing daily cleanings, unless that is you choose otherwise. If you're more comfortable with housekeeping, not entering the room during your stay, we also have that option. As far as the masks are concerned, we have them all throughout property. When you come in to the main entrances, no matter which entrance you come through, there's a staff person offering the masks to you. Once you check in, if you've already had a mask or you decided not to take one at the entrance, to Carrie Ann's point, there is a kit in each room with 2 face masks in that kit for the day. Otherwise, I think we could collaborate again with our meeting planners to make sure that masks are available throughout the meeting space, throughout property, really setting up some room drops if that is the case. If we want to make sure that the masks are delivered on a daily basis to guest rooms, that it's absolutely something that we can coordinate as well. So we have a lot of options to make sure everybody has the protection that they need.
Perfect, thank you. We also have a few questions about how elevators are going to work. If everybody's dismissed at the exact same time, what is the protocol for elevators?
So currently we are constituting a 4-person max in each of our elevators. On top of that, guests are required to, again, keep their face masks on in that scenario. We do have staff, security. Patrick, I'm sure you've seen every time you go into the elevator, you have to show your key. So there's staff here. It's been a standard for us for a really long time to have some staff in the elevator banks to make sure that everyone's protected, obviously from a security standpoint, but now adding in the health safety standards, we do have staff that is available and stationed at the elevator areas to make sure people are practicing those safety protocols.
Perfect, thank you. And question is, how have you approached pricing for meeting space or waived meeting space with the food and beverage minimum with such reduced capacity?
We have to be flexible. This is a time where everybody's kind of relearning what our world in meetings is, and we've done exactly that. We have worked with clients our biggest focus is to provide the level of service that we have always provided, but also reassure guests that they're going to be safe and things are going to be handled with the new protocols in place. So from a pricing perspective, we have been pretty flexible as far as negotiating some different catering spend, restrictions or qualifications for different meeting space. We really have moved towards understanding what the program consists of, how many guests do they really expect, and from a budgetary perspective, a per person kind of idea. Right now, we hope that we can get back to where we were before with thousands of people in meeting space. We may be restricted to do that for a while. So in working with planners such as Connect, we want to make sure that we can make the biggest impact if you see reduced attendance, and not necessarily require the same amount of spend if you were to bring 5,000 to 10,000 people to property. So we are being very flexible.
Thanks, Ellie. And Tabitha is asking, she's looking at the videos here and asking if that's 1 chair per 6-foot table and if that's standard throughout the meeting space right now.
It is. So this is 1 chair per 6 foot. Our classroom sets consist of blotters that go across the entire length of the table with the linen and the chair, as you see pictured. It is the standard that we are implementing right now. As the situation evolves, as we all know, we're continuing to learn new things, get new regulations in place. So as those things come out, we will adapt to whatever new protocols we need to follow, whether that means we can increase the capacity of a room because things are a little bit safer and the risk is not as high, or if we have to continue to space out, as you see here with 1 per 6. It is our standard now to answer the specific question, but of course we are adapting as everybody else is as things evolve.
Thank you. Question about linens. Also, if those are being, how often those are being changed and how that works also.
So we normally, as a standard, change them pretty frequently anyway. With refresh times, we try to get in to the rooms every single time to really reset the room to make sure that each new guest coming in has a clean area, especially now. With that being said, it's going to take a little bit of collaboration with, again, planners. Maybe instead of a 10 or 15-minute break, we need to think about 20 to 30 minutes, just depending on where people are going, how many people are moving throughout the space. Another idea we've had is rather than having attendees move and rotate throughout the rooms, possibly we have speakers move and rotate between room to room. So it's really minimizing the impact as far as what needs to be changed out from session to session. So we are absolutely taking the time and energy to replace everything and refresh everything as needed so that guests that haven't been in the room yet have a new clean space, but there are other options out there to mitigate that situation.
Perfect, thank you. Another question about F&B. This comes from Kimberly asking if let's talk F&B, Kimberly said. That's more than package or box meals. Will there be plated meals ever again? Are you at 3 people per 72-inch round? What is Nevada mandates regarding groups of under 100 or 300?
So to answer the first part of the question, yes, plated is still an option. If you think about the kind of a room service concept where you cover the plates and things really are protected regardless from a serving standpoint, we do feel that we can safely operate plated meal functions and abide by all the new regulations that are in place. The service, I'm sorry, I lost track of the second part of the question now that I'm going through it.
Just asking if there were, basically what Nevada's mandates are in terms
right.
of
so
what that
that's
looks
a
like.
little bit ever changing. We actually, have tried to express how safe we can distance people. For example, in a 72-inch round where you could fit 6 to 7 or 8 even sometimes, depending, back in the old days when we needed to maximize space, 5 to 6 people really around a 72-inch round is doable. However, at first glance, that might be a little shocking to see 5 or 6 people around a table. So we have given options, whether that actually be each person gets a cocktail round, or we do smaller rounds with 2 or 3 chairs in the room. We really have a lot of options to play with as far as the setup is concerned. The state hasn't necessarily mandated what we can set in a round specifically to meetings. I will say that in restaurants right now, we are not allowed to seat more than 6 per table. So that gives us a little bit of context on kind of how their thought process has been when it comes to dining.
Perfect, thank you. And another question is from Stephanie. She asks, what do you feel, Ellie, is that the Wynn is doing in the safety space that other people may not be doing? What are you guys doing to go above and beyond?
I think we're all about people. Our core is that it's not really, although our space is beautiful, our property is absolutely outstanding, it's our people that really make the experience different. And the training we have provided to every single staff member that's on property to make you feel safe encourage social distancing, encourage mask wearing, but you still feel like you're being taken care of. And honestly, that is the biggest thing that stands out for me, is that all of our staff really truly want you to come and escape. We want you to be able to come and do business and attend meetings and go to the pool and have fun and enjoy all of the things that we have to offer. But we really understand that to do that right now, there are a lot of steps in place that we have to follow, such as mask wearing and social distancing. So our staff really takes it personally. And to me, that just goes above and beyond anything else I've seen, really. You know, the equipment is obviously there as well, the thermal cameras, you know, the follow-up temperature reading, things of that nature. But I really feel that our staff is doing such a phenomenal job of keeping everybody safe.
Great. Thank you. All right, we have about 3 minutes. We're going to start our panel. We're going to get to as many of these as we can. Michelle's asking, what's the process for handling someone that may have a high fever or other COVID symptoms?
So we do have a process in every single room, as Carrie Ann mentioned, and throughout the property, there's the same signage that expresses or explains what to do if you start to feel sick. If you have symptoms, there's a number they can call. We immediately isolate that individual, do some follow-up. If medical attention is needed, we would get them situated so that they can seek that medical attention. Now, at that point, if they do seek medical attention, we have to kind of bow out due to, you know, certain restrictions. If the person we felt did have some sort of exposure or was ill, we would trace as much as possible, trace exactly where they were throughout property, what room they were in, and isolate all those areas to make sure we take care of any exposure possibilities as far as person to person, and then B, sanitizing and cleaning every area they may have come in contact with before obviously letting anybody else potentially be exposed.
Great, thank you. Shante asks, is there a way to separate conference attendees from day guests in the casino?
Not really in the casino if you're talking about the gaming floor. There are some routes people can take to avoid the casino area a little bit, but our resort elevators are situated in such a way that you land right on the casino floor for the most part. We do have a Wynn Tower Suites product that is a separate tower, separate check-in, separate elevator bank. If a guest was feeling a little uncomfortable about being, you know, on the casino floor and didn't really want to go on in that area, we do have options. For a large group, it's not fair to say that everybody could have that option, but it is something that we can accommodate if that's something that you're looking for.
Perfect, thank you. Let's see, we've got room for about 2 more. Tracy's asking, will the guest room sit unoccupied for a certain number of days after a guest checks out?
That's a great question. We took it upon ourselves to do so. The rules have changed a little bit. At first, we were letting, I believe, a full 48 hours clear before we even let housekeeping in there. I think we're down to 24 hours now. It's not something that's mandated by the state by any means. We can physically go into a room as soon as a guest checks out to start cleaning and sanitizing. We've just taken it upon ourselves to let a little bit of time pass. Now, that being said, the information we have about COVID does keep changing. Surface contact, you know, how long something can live on a surface, all of that information is still fluid. So as that changes, we will adapt to whether or not more time is needed to let a room, quote, breathe, or if we can, you know, maximize the time and get in there and get the room sanitized for the next guest.
Perfect, thank you. All right, well, we have all of these. There are questions that we did not get a chance to get to. These are all such great questions. We will keep these questions. We'll be responding to these in person. If any of you have any additional questions that you would like some additional clarification on, one of the recurring questions that we're getting is asking, like Dana asked, if we as Connect are implementing additional plans above and beyond what the Wynn and Encore already have in place. From our perspective, since we first approached the Wynn and we started talking to them about Connect this October, they have been phenomenal partners. And as conditions change constantly every day, we're on the phone and we're talking with them about what we can be doing differently or how we can work together. So we do have a Connect Safe and Clean plan that highlights everything that we're doing, and it is being updated. As we get additional information, as we move forward, we're updating this Safe and Clean plan. I would encourage anybody on this call, reach out to any of your Connect representatives or whoever you're working with. You can email me at patrick@connectmeetings.com. I will send you a copy of our latest Safe and Clean plan, but everything in that plan highlights what we are doing with the Wynn to keep everybody safe and healthy in October. All right, so that being said, I'd like to introduce our panel. Right now today, again, the focus is on meeting planners, and Ellie's going to stay on because she's been working with several groups that have met here recently at the Wynn within the last 30 days that have had great successful meetings. And the focus today is on the good news, and it is on the meetings and events that have happened recently with great results. We want to learn from these. We want to learn from what went well, maybe what didn't go so well that we can use moving forward, because things are constantly evolving, they're constantly changing as our industry is redefining itself. So what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce the panel, and then we will kick things off. If you do have questions for our panelists, please use the Q&A feature, and we'll get to those in order. So our first panelist is Mike Ferreira, owner and founder of Meetings Made Easy. Hi, Mike.
Hey guys, how are you?
And then we have Ellie Rivera, who is just being with us, Director of Southeast Sales here at the Wynn Las Vegas.
Hello.
And we have Nicole Unger, Vice President of Sales at Alliance Nationwide Exposition, and Jessica Prati, Director of Account Management and Design, also at Alliance Nationwide Exposition. And this, many of us are familiar with that Together Again Expo. We've been cheering them on. We've been watching from afar. We've been keeping our fingers crossed that everything went well. And we had a call with the Orlando Convention Visitors Bureau folks today, and they had nothing but good news to say about how things went last week. I even went so far as to ask them, has there been, we realized this was on Friday of last week, but I went so far as to ask them, has there been any cases that have popped up? Have anybody said that they've gotten sick as a result? And they were pleased to report that nothing negative has happened as a result of that meeting coming together in Friday, which is the first industry event that we've had, and I'm so excited to hear more about it from them. So Nicole and Jessica, last week you guys killed it, and a lot of eyes were on you, including mine, and you brought so many members of our industry together. How did things go?
This is why we want face-to-face meetings.
Yes,
This would never happen in a live event.
Thank you. It went phenomenally well. We planned this event in 47 days. The way it kind of came to fruition was when the Orange County Convention Center received their GBAC accreditation, for developing and maintaining practices for the prevention of infectious disease. We approached them and some other partners we had, and it was overwhelmingly receptive to put this event on. So from there, we went on. Jessica Prati is definitely going to be able to speak a lot of detail of the multiple safety measures we put in place for this. It certainly was not, it's a different way of planning now. It requires thought and extreme detail to every consideration everywhere. How people are walking, how they're interfacing, how things are laid out, the floor plan. So we took a lot of those measures into consideration to make it safe. And worked with all the partners. There's a lot of people out there with a lot of new services and products designed for our safety. And so we took advantage of all of their help and offerings and put that together. And last week when we were together in Orlando, we were all, it was stressful times. This was the first time we were going to do this. And I'm pleased to say that it went extremely well. Attendees were so respectful of one another, of social distancing, of wearing their masks at all times, of following our social distance ambassadors who were throughout the event to make sure everyone stayed 6 feet apart, not moving furniture around at the general session, leaving our chairs set where they were. Everyone's response really was that we were happy to be back to business and looking for ways to work together, as some of the most creative and industrious people in the world. We felt like we really had a lot of buy-in from everyone to make to make our comeback as an industry. So.
Love it. Thanks, Nicole. Jessica, what did you think?
I agree. Well, as Nicole said, this was definitely a labor of love to keep everybody safe, the planning in 47 days, the site visits. I can say that we had extensive conversations, not just among our team, but in collaboration with the Orange County team. You know, when a decision we thought it was made, then it would change 2 days later. You know, we scrutinized everything in terms of, you know, the safety, but also knowing that, you know, we can have all these ideas and implement everything, you know, to be what we believe to be safe and following guidelines and so forth. But ultimately, decisions were made also to allow the attendees and the exhibitors to want to come out, participate in the event and feel comfortable there in person. And that was our ultimate goal. And I think that was a success as well.
I absolutely love it. So I'm just curious from a catering perspective, what lessons, I mean, that had to be a unique obstacle this year. How did you handle things from a food and beverage standpoint? I heard Centerplate did a great job.
Yes, they were fabulous to work with from beginning to end. They were still in the process of working on their protocols and procedures, you know, as an organization, as a company. In the end, we did have a food court area in the back. They had about 9 carts. All their lines were socially distanced. They had all the measures that you would expect to see with sanitation, you know, staff with the food, the coverings and so forth. And I can't speak to every exact detail, but, you know, I just overheard the conversations and what I saw on site at the demo. Their head chef there, Chef K, I believe he's been there like 23 years. He did 2 food demos throughout the day in the Centerplate area, talking extensively and showcasing with 3 or 4 members of his team doing live demos on all the food prep, the service. We had socially distanced seating in that demo area as well. And I believe there were a lot of questions people were asking. I think the food and beverage is definitely a hot topic for sure.
Fantastic. Thank you. We'll come back to you in just a moment with some additional questions. So Mike Ferreira, owner, founder, Meetings Made Easy. You guys have customers in many different verticals across the country. What have you been seeing with their most recent meetings? Any successes? Any success stories?
Well, I mean, for right now, what we're seeing week by week, and I don't know what's in the air, but there's a slight uptick from what we personally see in the trenches, so to speak, as far as RFPs goes. I know what we see in the media, you know, that's what you see on TV, but that's not necessarily what could be happening in our industry. And I always remind my team that. So based off of week by week, what we're seeing as far as RFPs, there's a slight uptick. And I'm not saying it's the same as what it used to be. What I'm saying is I think consumer confidence is growing. People need to also remember is that 2021 and hotels, they're offering phenomenal things. So the reason why you should be sending out RFPs is you want to gain these types of concessions and these clauses, and we're seeing flexibility pretty much throughout the entire world when it comes to these hotel brands and what they're offering. So again, people we feel are hesitant to have meetings take place right now, but what I keep telling my team is encourage them to take advantage of these RFPs and send them out, because you don't know what the future holds. But that's really what we're seeing. So again, when it comes to like my own personal clients, what we're seeing with meetings, we just recently had one in Las Vegas and it was under 50. And as far as I have heard, it was successful. It was an off the strip property, but again, everything seems great as long as, you know, safety is number one. You have the proper protocols in place. That's really the name of the game right now.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike. All right, Ellie, the Wynn, our host for this October. You guys have held several meetings since Nevada received the green light to start hosting small meetings back in early June. And in fact, I noticed there's a group in-house right now. Could you share what your early experiences are hosting meetings from a hotel perspective?
Yeah, I think it's, someone mentioned earlier, paying attention to every single detail. And it's something that we really, truly excel in, you know, even from pre-COVID days. But right now, collaboration with our clients and really truly understanding what their top concerns are. Obviously, everyone is concerned with health and safety, but what about their event specifically would cause concern? You know, is it attendee demographic? Is it certain setups that they're trying to accomplish, certain meal functions they're trying to accomplish? So really understanding what their goals are as far as keeping everybody safe and how we can facilitate all of the different safety measures they want to put in place. You know, we obviously, I think when we hit the ground running, we took extra precautions. We went above and beyond to distance people even more than 6 feet and give people a lot of space to move around and have their own areas and not worry about crowding each other. So that was really successful for us as well, to make sure that people felt comfortable. We want everybody that's watching, and you know, not just us, but the other events. Together Again is a great example. We have to manage through this, and it's possible. I, you know, have been in this industry for about 10 years, and I've never seen a more resilient and creative group in all of my years of doing this. And I think that we as an industry can push forward. We can accommodate every concern and really make people feel comfortable to do business again, which is what we've seen as a success. You know, clients that held meetings are starting to talk about when they can come back next to conduct some more business with us.
Perfect. Thanks, Ellie. I'm looking at the Q&A box here. We have some questions that I'll just post to the group, and please feel free to chime in. There seems to be a lot of interest in, and we talked about this, I talked about this with a few of you earlier, because I personally am interested in this, but I think networking receptions are going to, this baffles me, because so many things that I know we need to do seem counterintuitive to what we do at an opening or closing reception, right? So talk to us about receptions. How are these going to work, and what have you seen, and what works well?
I would love to take this if I can. Recently we saw a reception for, I think it was 400 people at the Hilton Waldorf in Orlando. My global sales person, Maggie Worthington, sent it out. And if you haven't seen the brilliant video that they put together, it's phenomenal. The food stations, the packaging, the flow in which they let the attendees go through the reception was really phenomenal. And I was very impressed to see, because like with you, Patrick, that was a big concern of mine, is how are receptions going to take place. And I feel that receptions are so key to every single event. But if you have not checked out this video by Hilton, please reach out to me or, you know, Maggie or anyone with Hilton. They can show you this reception for 400 people that just, I think, recently took place last week or the week before at the Waldorf Astoria in Orlando. It's truly impressive.
Great, thanks, Mike. Ellie, you guys, what have you seen from albeit they would have been smaller receptions, but what have you seen here at the Wynn so far?
You know, I think when we try to address concerns that the state regulators might have about what could possibly happen as far as exposure or, you know, safety protocols in those environments, receptions, it's twofold. They do actually lend themselves to some pretty beneficial sides with, you know, you think of containers that are grab and go, and you don't necessarily have to touch too many things that you're not keeping to yourself when you're talking about the food that's actually served and the cocktails that are served. I think the biggest concern would be thinking about a seating perspective. I found that most state regulators want to see people kind of land and stay put a little bit more than normal. And I think that's going to be their feeling for a little while. So I think thinking about that process, and it is a little counterproductive when you talk about networking and kind of working the room in a reception setting. I think to keep that option still available for a reception itself, we need to talk about seating, giving people a place to land, what they can kind of call their own, and maybe think about how we can move people around more one-on-one rather than having clusters of people gathering, because I think that's what makes people a little bit more nervous when you talk about regulators.
Mm-hmm. Great, thanks, Ellie. All right, Jessica, Nicole, let's talk about one of our least favorite words, at least mine, as we look for, is waivers and liability. there is so much we don't know about waivers and liability. I've talked to different attorneys, and I've spoken to, there's so much, I'm surprised by what we don't know. Looking at last Friday, what did you do to protect yourself from a risk and liability standpoint for the attendees that you had?
I think Nicole's on mute.
Sorry about that. We had several measures in place, starting with, the registration. When you registered, you're acknowledging, that COVID exists, and it's present everywhere we go. So there was a release of liability. We have specific language we can provide that we did give to every attendee. We had signage throughout the facility, noting, that, again, we are living in this present environment, and we are taking every safety precaution possible to protect people. But the reality is that it is out there. So we did fully disclose to attendees that was the case. And Jessica, I think you could probably speak to a few more specifics on that, from the attendee standpoint, from the registration process throughout.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, as Nicole said, in addition to signage within the event and reminders, but also outside of the temp check, we had the same verbiage and some additional out by the temperature checks before people even came into the building, acknowledging that this is a public space. When you're walking in here, know that that you are aware that you are that you're putting yourself into a situation potentially. And like Nicole said, we're happy to share that, but the same language was also when any attendee or exhibitor would register, that language was also, it was required to be acknowledged in order for that registration to be processed.
And in addition to that, we also did, ask attendees and put in that same language, if you have a fever, if you have traveled, do not attend. So we included that as well.
Did you have any negative experiences of people that didn't feel comfortable signing waivers or accepting that liability? Or did everything go smoothly? Did you have any surprises?
Actually, surprisingly, we did not. I think the people that did not feel comfortable, they just didn't attend in person. They went the virtual route. And that's what we were hoping and anticipated. We didn't have anybody on site that did not comply or that, that came up and that gave us feedback on something that they felt that we didn't cover or that we were doing wrong. So I think that by registering to attend in person, traveling there, being there, I think most people knew and were comfortable with wearing their mask and following all the measures that we had in place.
I can see that. I probably feel the exact same way with, I think overwhelmingly we had this conversation over lunch. I feel like for most of us, we realize that meetings and events, successful, healthy events are critical to our jobs. And it's up to us to take responsibility to make sure that we play our small part in the health and success of meetings so that we can all get things moving forward quickly. We did have a question from Marcy. What adjustments did you make while planning this event? This is for Jessica Nicole. What adjustments did you make when planning this event? For instance, speakers moving, not the attendees for breakout sessions, or extending break times for cleaning, or rooms set differently. What accommodations did you make?
So when we planned this event, we kept it very streamlined, especially going into this new environment. We used a large exhibit hall at the convention center, 240,007 square feet. We had a presentation stage in the back. We had seating for 500, 6-foot socially distanced between every chair. We had, since it was in the exhibit hall, it was spaced away from the exhibit booths. And obviously there's plenty of room, you know, in a hall that size to really spread out. That was one of the key things we did. As far as the speakers were concerned, we had very limited speakers on stage at one time, and they were TED style presentations with one speaker. When we did have the live panel to open, we did hold the speakers in a green room, spaced out 6 foot, socially distanced, back in the green room. They were required to wear their masks up until they sat down on the stage, at which point, when they were socially distanced, they were able to remove them, and then they would put them back on when they left the stage right away. And you know, from that standpoint, we did the same thing with the individual presenters. They wore their masks until they walked up to the stage, and then put them back on immediately upon exiting the stage. So we were complying at all times with that mask and social distance policy.
How did you enforce those that maybe weren't social distancing? I mean, it's one thing to require or ask things of people, it's another thing to enforce it. How did you handle that?
So fortunately, we had, the attendees were amazingly cooperative with all of it, but we did have social distance ambassadors that their sole position was to roam the hall, look for bottlenecks, check all of the areas to make sure people weren't unintentionally bottlenecking or getting too close to one another, and politely just, you know, asking them to space out a little bit in respect for, you know, the current environment we're in. And everyone was overwhelmingly, you know, thankful to them and, you know, cooperative.
Perfect. And we do have several requests for verbiage about liability that you used. So maybe we can huddle up afterwards and see if we can procure that and share that with the group, if that's okay. I'll ask this question to all of our panelists, but I think it was geared towards you, Jessica, Nicole. But the temperature check process, what does that look like? What equipment are you in? I've seen what's here at the Wynn, but what are you guys using for your own meetings, and what did you use last Friday?
Jessica can take that away.
Okay. Yeah, we did temperature checks with temperature guns with EMTs outside prior to entry. For those that were given access, once they were inside, there were thermal scanners that they would walk through. To be completely transparent, the thermal company that we had there, we wanted, you know, a lot of people came to me in the planning process and said, don't you think that's overkill to have two? Again, being that, you know, we're you know, we're building a safe environment, we're building a comfort level for people to come out. You know, my response was, we can't be too safe. So temperature checks outside. Inside, they went through the thermal scanner. They received a sticker that said, I'm cool. And then onto the registration process. So the other thing I will mention too, I was surprised to learn that EMTs do not have to do the temp checks. I know around Orlando, from what I was told and what I've seen, and even just going to restaurants on my own, you know, anybody can temp check anybody else. But again, for a heightened level of safety for this event, and putting, you know, everybody, you know, at a great level of comfort to come out to be with us, we had EMTs there just so, you know, just in case. So that was our approach, and it was effective.
That's great. Mike, I'll pose this to you. With your groups, the groups you work with, how are you handling attendees that say that they're medically exempt from wearing a mask?
Medically exempt for the mask. Oof, I haven't received that one yet, just because the meetings currently haven't taken place with that. I would have to ask somebody on my team. I think maybe that would be more for Ellie. I mean, Ellie, would you be able to answer that one?
So we have had instances where that is a topic of conversation and where somebody, you know, for whatever reason is exempt. We do require that they wear a face shield. So if you've seen the clear acrylic looking, it completely covers their face, that at minimum is what they have to wear. So they have to have some sort of barrier covering their face, whether it's a cloth mask or a surgical mask, which is preferred, or the acrylic face shield.
Can I say something about thermal, the thermal process? I feel, especially here, like at Wynn Resort, they have them at every single entrance on property. And there's something about when you go through thermal imaging, I don't know why, but as a human being, you just feel safer. I don't know what the statistics are, if that's true or not, but thermal imaging, trust me, it does something to the attendee experience and to the guests, where to be stopped and be scanned, even though you don't feel anything at all, it truly helps. And I think it's very important that if you can afford thermal imaging, that you put that into place.
Yeah, and to piggyback off that, Mike, I think it's important for people to realize how non-invasive it truly is. It's not scanning your face, it's not taking a picture of you, it actually doesn't even have that function. When you think about the thermal scanner, it truly just shows your shape or your figure and the different colors based on whatever temperature it's reading. And for us, you know, back to an earlier point, whether something is overkill or not, we want to make sure that before we pull someone aside to ask them further medical questions about, you know, how they're feeling or maybe where they've been, we do a secondary temperature check with a non-invasive thermal gun as well, thermometer, to make sure that, you know, if the person reads high, then we continue to have the conversations. But a lot of times we live in a very warm climate, and sometimes the thermal camera does read a little bit hotter than the actual person's temperature is, which is another reason why we do a double check as well.
Yeah, I can speak from my personal experience. When I checked in to the hotel, I saw the thermal camera there. I saw somebody standing behind it. I walked right by it. I thought they may still be setting it up or that it wasn't turned on or something. It could, because it was no inconvenience to me at all. Walked in, checked out. Later that afternoon, I left the hotel for a while. I came back, and the person walking in front of me was stopped, and they took her temperature with a handheld thermometer, and she passed just fine and walked through. And I was talking about it with Ellie the next day, and she shared with me that because they didn't stop me, I walked right through. I was expecting that they would stop me and take my temperature as well. They didn't. I walked right through. And when I was speaking with Ellie, she said, "Oh, they tested warm on the thermal camera, so they double checked with the handheld, and she was okay, so she walked through." So it was at the Wynn, like with any casino, there's so many cameras anyway. This is just another thing. It's right in front of you instead of in the ceiling. So that was it. There was no inconvenience to me whatsoever. But there is a safety factor there too, Mike. You're right.
And can I also point out, just because you don't see the thermal imaging stations does not mean that they're not up in the sky, or because a lot of properties on the Strip have it, you just don't see it. So don't feel just because you walk into a place that you might not have been already scanned by the eye in the sky, so to speak.
That's a great point. I'll close with this, and then from my perspective, and then we'll turn it over to Susie. There are some Connect specific questions that we'll try and address before we run up on time. But from my perspective, this was, like I said earlier, this is my first trip since March, and I feel like as a parent, as a father, as a member of our industry, since March, it's been my job to keep myself and my family safe and healthy. And I've taken that very seriously. When this first happened, I was one of those people that at 6 o'clock in the morning, I was out trying to find the recently restocked grocery stores that had just got toilet paper, eggs, or milk, whatever the case may be. Like, that was our job, is to keep ourselves and our families healthy. Since my arrival to the Wynn, they are so on top of it here, and I haven't seen any of the hotels in Las Vegas or elsewhere. This is my first trip, but I feel like when I see how they're enforcing things politely but firmly, I see the thermal cameras not only on the entrance to the hotel but on the entrance to the meeting space. When I see everything everybody else is doing, and to the extent that they're doing it with, I feel like I can finally, for the first time since March, relax a little bit and let somebody else take care of me, because they seem like they're on their game much more than I ever was. And it actually helps me relax a little bit. So I had some apprehension traveling. It's felt great. So when I fly out, I'm going to have to go back to taking care of myself and my family. But for right now, I'm going to let somebody else take care of me. And it does feel nice. It feels refreshing. So Susie, we have some Connect specific questions. You want to go ahead and take those?
Yes, thank you. So there have been over 80 questions. I'm trying to respond to some. I know a lot were directed at Ellie and our panelists, so thank you all for that. We will continue to follow up. I have I'm sorry, this is, to Mike's point, this wouldn't happen if we were live. He's right over there, so thanks for the reminder. So there have been over 85 questions in the chat group, so I apologize if we haven't gotten to them all. I am putting Patrick's and my contact information in the chat right now. You can also email info@connectmeetings.com. We'll put you in touch with Nicole, Mike, Jessica, Ellie, and the Wynn team, whomever your questions are directed at. So feel free to contact us. We appreciate a lot of, the correspondence back and forth. But really quickly, a couple things about Connect Marketplace in specific. There's been some questions about max capacities and all those things. I think if we've learned nothing else during 2020, it's to be flexible, right? So we are continuing, like Patrick said, to talk to the Wynn team on a daily basis. We do have contingencies in place if for some reason we can only have a group of 250, for example, in a meeting room at one time. What that would look like. If we're allowed to hopefully have 50% capacity by October, what that might look like. So it's an ongoing conversation. We have a lot of flexibility. We have the entire space at the Wynn to work with for our group. We are anticipating about 2,000 attendees. We have about 1,200, 1,400-ish registered so far. So we're looking forward to seeing that continue to grow. And we assure you we will do everything in our power to keep you all safe and healthy. A few of the things that many of you meeting planners are already doing at your events, obviously we're instituting one-way aisles, wider aisles, those kinds of things that we can control. Masks are required in Nevada currently. Regardless of if that changes, masks will be required at all Connect events. As a minimum, a cloth mask. We will provide those, so there's no question about if you bring one, if you have one in your room, we are providing those. KN95s will be available if those are requested as well. As far as the one-on-one appointments, there were several questions about that. We are setting up, each meeting planner will be stationed at their kind of one-on-one appointment station at a 6-foot table to themselves, and they'll be doubled up as far as the width is concerned. There will be a plexiglass panel between the meeting planner and the supplier. So your one-on-one appointments will be 2 people that are masked up with the barrier between. So we're taking every precaution possible to keep you, safe and have that distance between you. And that's kind of our plan. We will have a trade show space and education rooms with social distancing to the nth degree. So we will continue to modify, talk to the Wynn, talk to the state of Nevada, do what we can to perpetuate this feeling of positivity in this industry. We are determined to make this happen in a safe and responsible way. And we look forward to kind of showcasing all of our efforts in October. If you do have more questions, let us know. We really appreciate you all being here. We had close to 1,000 people on this. We appreciate your time. We know everyone's busy, but let us know how else we can help facilitate these conversations and keep things moving in the right direction.
Perfect. Thanks, Susie, and thank you to our panelists. We've really enjoyed this today. We'll get around to answering all the questions that we didn't have time for today, and make sure that we respond to everybody directly and in short order. So we're all wrapped up for today. We're already looking forward to next month, and thanks again. Have a great rest of the day, everyone. Bye now.